Hey YouTube, welcome back to Tinker with Tools. Today we are talking about the brand new high torque impact driver from Dewalt, so let's get right into that on Tinker with Tools. Now, it's already been several months since we got our first leaked images of this impact driver on social media. Well, we now know that this is being called their 3-speed high torque impact driver, and that's right, we now have a distinction between an impact driver and a high torque impact driver, and that's because this one is putting on some impressive figures. Now, during the time that I've been reviewing tools here on YouTube, I have kind of debuted two brand new impact drivers right around the time that they came out, or at least as soon as I could get my hands on them. And so with those two releases, there were things about each one of them that I liked, but I kind of felt like Dewalt was playing it safe and almost just trying to hit it into the fairway instead of really being aggressive in what they're doing. And what I mean by that is with impact drivers, I feel like you have one of two directions you can go. You can either try and make a really nice impact driver to use with enough power to get jobs done, but the focus on it is going to be more on precision and how nice it is to use. And that's where you find like Makita and even to some degree Metabo HPT. And then the other side of that argument is the ones that just kind of focus on power and speed, and that's where you find Milwaukee and Flex. Dewalt always just seemed to try and play it in the middle where it had enough power and it was pretty nice to use, but it didn't necessarily excel at anything, and so that's where it always was a little frustrating with Dewalt. Now, all the while that they're doing this, they're also releasing incredible tools in other areas, but their impact drivers were always just a letdown. Now, this impact driver, what I'm hoping we get is going to be the one that kind of finally pushes Dewalt right up there to the forefront of what's happening in impact drivers, and it looks like they focused more on the power side than necessarily on the easy to use size. But if I'm being honest, I've driven 4 total screws with this thing so far. We're going to be doing some testing and we're going to try and figure it out. First, I want to talk about what you're getting and what is different from previous impact drivers that Dewalt has released. So first off, this is not their smallest impact driver. That is still going to go to the DCF860 in terms of shortness of the head, and the 845 and the 840 are both going to be more slender than this one, although not necessarily as short as that 850. This is a bulkier tool. It feels more like a true predecessor to the DCF887. Now, Dewalt's always had great lighting on their impact drivers, but over the years, they've definitely had impact drivers that have gotten brighter and better lights up front, and Dewalt has certainly kind of answered to this a little bit by going with this new kind of expanded tri-LED. Overall, I think there's 9 LEDs on the front of it in 3 separate sections, and it's a brighter, more white light than some of their older impact drivers, and the light is definitely improved. Now, with that light, you do get 2 different brightness settings, and then there is also a 20-minute work light option where when you pull the trigger, it'll stay on for 20 minutes. Now, once again, different changes that we're getting is down on the control part of the impact driver. Dewalt for years has employed kind of that selector switch that slides back and forth between 1, 2, and 3. That is gone. It's been replaced by what we've seen on their impact wrenches with having kind of a covered panel with 2 different buttons to select through them. Really nice, clear indication of what gear you're in, or what speed you're in, I should say. Now, typically with Dewalt impact drivers, speed 1 in the past has always been kind of a controlled drive mode. Personally, I have never liked this mode, so we're going to see what speed 1 kind of has to offer for us on this impact driver. Based on the fact that they're quoting 1800 RPMs, I'm thinking that this is not the same mode that we've gotten on past impact drivers, but we're going to have to see. Now, the rest of the tool is very much what you would expect from Dewalt. The grip is great. I want to go ahead and test this tool, do some just random fastener tests, and then this is going to be just like a first impressions video. We're not going to necessarily be comparing it to other impact drivers in this video. Later on, I want to do both a video comparing it to the other Dewalt impact drivers, and then another one where we compare it to some of the top impact drivers on the market. But for now, we're going to do some testing, and then we'll come back here and I'll give you my first impressions and just how I feel this impact driver is to use. All right, so I have just sat down from doing that testing, and I'm just going to kind of run through my initial first impressions of what it is like to use. So first off, it's not the smallest impact driver that's out there. It's not even the smallest of these big, powerful ones, but it's not necessarily a giant impact driver. There are kind of top tier impact drivers from other brands that are going to be bigger than this, but I do kind of like that they have not necessarily just gone for ultra compact, because it really didn't get all that warm. And so I think the extra size compared to some of the ultra compact stuff is going to lend itself well to making this so it doesn't get quite as hot or burn up. There are a few things that are very stereotypical DeWalt in terms of the function and how it works. It feels like a DeWalt impact driver, but it's just got all this performance kind of coming at it now. The collet is great. Now I did just check, there is a single ball bearing in there. I've never had issues with DeWalt's necessarily retaining bits, but just for your information, it is a single ball bearing there. The light on it is improved over what I've experienced from DeWalt impact drivers in the past, and having the ability to kind of make it a little bit brighter or a little bit dimmer depending on the scenario. And there's kind of two different brightness levels, and then obviously that 20-minute work light, I think that'll come in handy at some point. It's not a feature that's going to necessarily sell the impact for me. I like the switch that's been on the impact wrenches, and so I like seeing that on here. This one is nice and sealed on top, so as long as the electronics stay working, I think this is great. Now in terms of the kind of low end speed, maybe better said, the control of the impact driver at low speed, I was actually kind of surprised. Down in speed 1, I've always disliked that previous DeWalt speed 1 and the way that it worked. Now I know people who love it. That's personal preference coming out. What I like about this one is it is still peppy enough and performant enough that I'm not just sitting there waiting for the fastener to go in, but it was easily controllable, especially with the trigger on this. It is a stiffer trigger. It's not as featherweight as like the Makita, for example, but it's a good DeWalt trigger, and so far I really like the feel of it, and I can really kind of modulate the speed when I'm doing the driving on there. I did 2 really small fasteners, little kind of cabinet screws real thin, and I was able to set them just right. When you move up into speed 3, the performance is blistering. I have purposely not compared it yet to the Flex or the Milwaukee, because I want this just to be my first impressions about this tool. We're going to get to those, I promise. They're sitting right here off camera and they will be tested. Now I'm not saying that that performance is necessarily going to supersede or top what you've been getting from the kind of the ultra fast impact driver so far, but it's putting DeWalt on par with that, and I think that's something that I've wanted to see for a number of years, and we're finally starting to get it. The 3.5-inch deck screw on speed 3 is the one that I sunk it well past what I'd want to do. I don't know if this is going to be the impact driver for driving that type of fastener in speed 3, but speed 2 still has a decent amount of RPMs and felt controllable. I was able to set that one just right. I think they've given you the ability to dial it back enough that you could still use those type of fasteners, but speed 3 is just a monster in terms of how it works out. The performance testing, I'm not going to give you a lot of comparison for how they stack up, but I will say that some of those bigger fasteners, I don't even do those bigger, thicker fasteners with every impact driver. For future testing, we are going to have to do that with these to kind of show some separation. And then I think we're going to have to get some bigger actual lag bolt. I typically would say use some of the more modern fasteners, but if you're still using some of those kind of older lag bolts and stuff with there, we're gonna maybe go get some bigger stuff to test with these and kind of show it, and perhaps even do some lug nuts with them to kind of show off the torque. I'm not really set up really well right now to really show you a whole lot of torque testing, and part of that's because Torque Test Channel does such a great job, but just so far off the bat, this is an impressive tool. Now let me kind of talk about how it's being offered right now and how you can buy it. As far as I know right now, you can pre-order a kit with a battery, but for the most part, if you're talking about getting this shipped to you now, you're really just talking about the bare tool. The bare tool is $199, so $199 bare tool, that is definitely on the pricier side of things when it comes to impact drivers, especially bare tool. I think you'll eventually see sales on this. Right now, you're going to be paying a premium dollar, but it does have some impressive performance. Now, when we talk about the kit price, this tool does not come kitted with this battery. It is going to come kitted with a brand new 8 amp hour power pack battery, and that is not power stack. This is a power stack battery. It's going to have your lithium pouch cell. That is going to have their new tabless cells. So that is going to be what I would imagine to be their most premium battery. That big kit with that 8 amp hour power pack and a premium 6 amp charger, so a more rapid charger than what you're getting with your base DeWalt tools, that is going to be $319. Now, I don't have the power pack battery yet, partially because those kits have not yet been released. I believe we're going to expect to have those shipped sometime in the next 10 to 15 days. And I have ordered the new DeWalt DCD1007, their new top tier hammer drill with that battery. So when we do get it, you'll be seeing that testing with that battery on this tool as well. Overall, this 5 amp hour power stack battery is a good battery. It's just not going to be the one that it's kitted with. So then just to kind of sum this up, this is the first DeWalt Impact Driver release when I've been reviewing these tools that I feel has met or exceeded my expectations. And I've got some lofty expectations for this tool. If you're going to come out here with the specs that they have and go at the top strongest impact drivers on the market, you better back that up and not just throw random numbers out like some brands do when they're kind of trying to promote their tool. This brings both power and speed in a way that is impressive, and although I'm not ready to say that it's going to top the performance of these other brands, it certainly puts DeWalt in a territory that they have not been in a long time, and that is the reason why I'm so excited about this tool. A lot more testing coming. So there you have it. If you have questions about this tool, drop them down in the comments below, and then if you want to see it tested up against a particular impact driver, go ahead and do that. If there's a particular type of fastener or type of test you want to see it put through, leave that in the comments down below. We'll try and get to that in the next couple of videos with this. There is a lot of testing coming with this. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe. Stay tuned because there's lots of cool stuff coming from DeWalt in the next month or so. So get subscribed and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of that content. But as always, thank you for all the support. And until next time, I'll catch you on Tinker with Tools.